When Kang Hansu arrived at the inn, Cogmos, who was nervous, told him that Leisha and Julia had informed him that Prince Alsus, the heir to the Masta Empire, wanted to meet Kang Hansu. This news shocked Kang Hansu. Cogmos urgently advised Kang Hansu not to mention anything about him if he met the prince because the prince could quickly figure out that Cogmos is a demon. Kang Hansu asked Cogmos how the prince would know, and Cogmos explained that the prince is a paladin blessed by the Saintess. Kang Hansu realized he should avoid the prince since he is connected to the Saintess, who is connected to the goddess. Kang Hansu then told Cogmos that what he said had nothing to do with him, frustrating Cogmos, who emphasized the importance of complying since the prince wanted to see Kang Hansu. Upon learning this, Kang Hansu sighed, realizing that even if he agrees to meet the prince, communication would be a challenge. Just as Cogmos was about to respond, Leisha and Julia burst into the room, their excitement evident at seeing Kang Hansu. Observing this, Cogmos let out a sigh and commented to Kang Hansu that he appears to be quite popular with the ladies. Kang Hansu responded by dismissing the idea, suggesting that Julia and Leisha likely came to ask for his help with leveling up again. Cogmos, with a serious expression, then told Kang Hansu that he tends to downplay the emotions of others. He warned Kang Hansu that if he continues this behavior, he might struggle to find a spouse. Kang Hansu retorted, indicating that an old demon bachelor like Cogmos doesn't have the right to advise him, leading Cogmos to express his frustration by shedding tears. While this unfolded, the women spoke to Kang Hansu, and as Cogmos wiped his tears, he translated their words. The girls explained that when they realized Kang Hansu had disappeared, they felt sad, thinking their savior had left without them being able to repay the favor. Hearing this, Kang Hansu wore a confused and shocked expression. Realizing that Kang Hansu had acquired another curse, Cogmos inquired about what had caused it. Kang Hansu responded, saying he had been hunting, causing Cogmos to sigh in disbelief. Cogmos then decided to bid farewell to Kang Hansu and the city, indicating that their journey had concluded. Kang Hansu, in response, grabbed Cogmos by the neck and questioned who would translate for him if Cogmos left. Cogmos, upon hearing this, slapped Kang Hansu's hand away and mentioned that they could go to a slave market to find a language-blessed slave for translation. Hearing this, Kang Hansu asked Cogmos about the rarity of such a blessing. Cogmos reassured Kang Hansu, pointing to the bag full of money, explaining that acquiring such slaves was easy with money. Upon hearing this, Kang Hansu's mood initially brightened as he recognized Cogmos' point. However, his mood quickly shifted to anger as he realized that Cogmos' decision to leave must have been brewing for a while, indicating a desire to distance himself. Reacting to this, Kang Hansu decided to give Cogmos a thorough beating, while Leisha and Julia watched in astonishment. As Kang Hansu prepared to continue his intense attack on Cogmos, Leisha interrupted him, saying something that prompted Kang Hansu to inquire with Cogmos about her words. Cogmos responded by remarking that Kang Hansu was slow-witted, questioning why a lady would go through the effort of dressing up just to see a man. In response, Kang Hansu humorously suggested love, causing Cogmos to sigh in disbelief at Kang Hansu's lack of understanding. Nevertheless, Kang Hansu set aside these thoughts as he realized the girls probably wanted to go out, inviting Cogmos to join them. Cogmos agreed but mentioned he didn't plan to accompany them to see the prince due to the risks involved as long as the prince remained in the city. This cautious stance led Kang Hansu to call Cogmos a coward, annoying Cogmos and prompting him to raise his voice in frustration. After a full day of going out and shopping, the scene shifts to Leisha and Julia standing in front of a grand mansion. Their excitement is palpable as they notice Kang Hansu being dropped off by a carriage. As he steps out of the carriage, Kang Hansu can't help but express his annoyance at the uncomfortable clothing he's wearing. Despite this, he sets aside his discomfort and walks into the expansive mansion accompanied by the two women. The interior decoration of the mansion immediately captivates Kang Hansu as he enters. His thoughts are abruptly interrupted when he notices Prince Alsus gazing out of a window. The prince turns around and warmly greets Kang Hansu, who, upon seeing the prince's handsome face, can't help but feel annoyed. To his surprise, Kang Hansu is able to understand the prince's words, leaving him stunned. The prince explains that as a prince, he possesses the ability to speak every language of different countries and races, referring to it as the blessing of language. As the prince introduces himself to Kang Hansu, he expresses gratitude for the orc subjugation and for rescuing two noble daughters of the kingdom. Kang Hansu responds, saying it was his duty as a citizen of Fantasia, though he is internally puzzled by the prince's mispronunciation of his name. The prince expresses his curiosity about the skill Kang Hansu employed to single-handedly annihilate the Great Orc Plain. He requests Kang Hansu to spend some time showcasing his swordsmanship, leaving Kang Hansu surprised. Upon hearing this, Kang Hansu was taken aback and asked the prince if he wanted to engage in a sparring match immediately. The prince, noticing Kang Hansu's reaction, apologized for his lack of manners and instead offered a lavish buffet of food, suggesting they discuss matters over dinner for the time being. As Kang Hansu devoured the food voraciously, everyone present was astonished by his seemingly insatiable appetite. Observing this, the prince playfully expressed his envy at not being able to match Kang Hansu's eating prowess, leaving Kang Hansu both surprised and delighted. Kang Hansu proceeded to apologize for consuming all the food, to which the prince reassured him, explaining that it was better for the food to be enjoyed rather than go to waste. Following this, the prince inquired about Kang Hansu's hero's curse. Kang Hansu responded by explaining that he had once rescued a fairy who was being harassed by a warrior. Upon hearing this, Prince Alsus finally grasped the reason behind Kang Hansu's fairy blessing as well. In response, Prince Alsus inquired about the appearance of the warrior. Kang Hansu, deciding to fabricate a story, claimed that he punched the warrior in the face, making it impossible for him to recall the warrior's face. The prince smiled and suggested that they investigate all the warriors with facial injuries. Kang Hansu thought to himself that the prince would never find such a warrior since he had fabricated the entire tale. Shifting to the main topic, the prince broached the subject of orc subjugation, praising Kang Hansu for nearly wiping out all the orcs from the orc territory. Kang Hansu, upon hearing this, questioned if he had done something wrong. The prince reassured him, explaining that Kang Hansu had addressed a problem the kingdom had been struggling with. He urged Kang Hansu to consider it a minor investigation, leaving Kang Hansu astonished. In light of this, the prince remarked that all the orcs in the plains seemed to have vanished as though they had become extinct. Curious, the prince inquired if Kang Hansu had any explanation for this phenomenon. Kang Hansu replied by suggesting that he might have simply hunted down too many orcs. In response, the prince commented that if it were possible to manage the orc population through diligent efforts, he would have personally taken charge of their subjugation. Kang Hansu's amused laughter prompted the prince to smile, expressing his desire to learn more about Kang Hansu. The scene transitions outdoors, where the prince expresses gratitude to Kang Hansu for agreeing to the duel. In response, Kang Hansu smiles and reveals his fairy dagger, surprising the prince who hadn't anticipated seeing such a weapon in the possession of a human. Recognizing that he might have revealed too much, Kang Hansu swiftly returns the dagger to his pocket before showcasing his aura swordsmanship with a finger, leaving both the prince and the knight commander astonished. Observing Kang Hansu's impressive skill, the prince decides to offer him a gift in the form of a sword, which Kang Hansu gladly accepts. The prince draws his own sword and grants Kang Hansu the first strike. Kang Hansu graciously agrees, realizing it's an opportune moment to assess his strength against the third most powerful knight in the kingdom. He opts to unleash his full power, releasing an immense amount of aura that stuns the prince. Kang Hansu then executes a lethal strike, which the prince barely manages to block, resulting in a massive explosion. As the scene is enveloped in smoke due to the explosion, Kang Hansu realizes he may have attacked too forcefully. In a sudden moment of concern, he contemplates the possibility of the prince being fatally wounded by the assault. Consequently, he makes a quick decision to escape. Upon spotting an exit, Kang Hansu forcefully breaks down the gate and flees while offering his apologies. As the smoke begins to dissipate, the view reveals the prince lying on the ground with his shattered sword, appearing to smile. He comments that though his reaction was somewhat delayed, he had put all his strength into defending against the attack, yet his sword had been easily shattered by someone merely at level 1. With a somewhat sinister grin, the prince remarks that Kang Hansu is undeniably an extraordinary individual. Upon seeing the prince on the ground, Leisha and Julia extended their help to assist him up. However, the prince waved them off, assuring them that he was fine as he regained his footing. Leisha then conveyed to the prince that she believed Kang Hansu had been startled, leading him to run away. In response, the prince acknowledged that due to his own vulnerability, he had nearly implicated Kang Hansu, the kingdom's savior, in a murder. He expressed his intention to apologize to Kang Hansu and shared with the ladies that he wanted to make amends. Leisha and Julia responded, mentioning that Kang Hansu likely returned to the inn, and they promised to retrieve him promptly. With that, Leisha and Julia left the scene. The prince was left smiling, feeling a sense of excitement similar to when he had first learned how to wield a sword from his mother. The scene shifts, and we find the saintess having successfully returned to the temple, now outside her room. Just as she is about to enter, she inquires if anyone has entered her room without permission. The priest responds, stating that only the usual maids and inspector have entered. Curious, the priest asks if there's a problem, prompting the saintess to explain that an intruder has entered her room. She directs their attention to the floor, which is marked with footprints. Observing this, the priest advises everyone, including the saintess, to avoid entering the room, suggesting that an assassin might be hiding inside. The saintess counters that an assassin wouldn't leave such noticeable footprints on the floor. Despite the caution, the saintess proceeds into her room, instructing others not to enter until she gives permission. As she approaches her shelf, the saintess is taken aback when she realizes that Kang Hansu's bag is nowhere to be found, leaving her shocked. As the saintess contemplates the situation, the goddess appears before her and inquires about the matter. The saintess explains that Kang Hansu's bag has been stolen. Upon hearing this, the goddess is left speechless and reprimands the saintess, suggesting that she should have destroyed the bag when she had the chance. The goddess proceeds to ask the saintess what her plan is, and the saintess responds by indicating that she will have to await fate's decision. Annoyed by this response, the goddess implores the saintess to find a solution and rectify the issue. In reply, the saintess urges the goddess to seek a solution herself if it is such a significant problem. The goddess's anger intensifies, and she departs with a frustrated expression, leaving the saintess to sigh in disbelief as she contemplates who Kang Hansu truly is, for his presence to make the goddess so worried and disturbed. Suddenly, through a radiant orb within the saintess's chamber, the priest outside established communication with her, inquiring about her well-being and if they could enter. The saintess assured them that everything was fine and requested the priest to relay messages to Prince Alsus and the fairy kingdom. The scene then shifts back to the prince's mansion, where he was promptly informed by his maid that the saintess wished to meet with him. Upon hearing this, the prince realized he had become so engrossed with Kang Hansu that he had forgotten to report the details of the orc's subjugation to the saintess. Consequently, he entered the mansion and employed a glowing orb to communicate with the saintess. The saintess inquired about the progress of his investigation into the sudden disappearance of orcs. The prince explained that the orc hunting plan involving the heroes would need to be suspended due to the drastic reduction in orc numbers, almost approaching extinction. The saintess probed for the cause, and the prince revealed that they had managed to capture one of the remaining orcs after considerable effort. Through the prince's blessing of language, they communicated with the orc, who indicated that their habitat had been overtaken by a demon. The saintess was taken aback by this revelation, and the prince cautiously noted that the information had yet to be confirmed. In response, the saintess resolved to intensify surveillance on the demons and commended the prince for his commendable efforts. As their conversation neared its end, the prince expressed his desire to present a suggestion. The scene shifts back to the inn, where Kang Hansu is hastily packing his belongings while urgently informing Cogmos that they need to flee immediately. He explains that if they're apprehended, they could face execution for attempting to harm the prince. Cogmos is taken aback by this revelation, and Kang Hansu simply bids him farewell. Observing Kang Hansu's departure, Cogmos becomes annoyed as he realizes he might encounter trouble due to his association with Kang Hansu. As Cogmos contemplates how to escape this situation, Kang Hansu utilizes his holy sword to communicate with the orc guardian, who conjures a portal for him. Witnessing this, Cogmos is left astounded, as he had believed Kang Hansu was incapable of using magic. Kang Hansu responds by explaining he doesn't have time to elaborate and urges Cogmos to meet him at the northern gate. With that, Kang Hansu steps into the portal, noting that he won't wait for long, leaving Cogmos by himself, much to Cogmos' annoyance. The scene shifts back to Prince Alsus's mansion, where he recounts the fabricated story Kang Hansu had created to the saintess. He describes an incident involving a warrior attacking a fairy. The prince admits he doesn't possess details about the warrior's appearance, except that his face was severely disfigured, rendering him unrecognizable. Upon hearing this, the saintess suggests that the person who attacked the fairy could potentially be MANHWA, given his previous state of being battered and disheveled the last time they met. The prince informs the saintess that he has appointed inspectors to prevent such incidents in the future. The saintess approves of this measure, granting her permission and encouraging the prince to generously reward the individual who saved the fairy. However, the saintess mentions that it would typically be her responsibility to reward the warrior, but she is required to urgently visit the fairy kingdom for an important matter. Responding to her concern, the prince assures the saintess not to worry and offers to bestow the reward on her behalf. The conversation concludes with the saintess expressing confidence in Prince Alsus's abilities. After the call ends, Prince Alsus approaches a window, contemplating that if he intends to appoint Kang Hansu as his personal knight, his current armor and weapon might prove inadequate. The scene shifts to the orc sanctuary, where a group of villagers has gathered by the portal, evidently prepared to welcome Kang Hansu. Emerging from the portal, Kang Hansu is taken aback when he is warmly greeted by Bruce. Kang Hansu then approaches Bruce and requests him to assemble the villagers and assist with moving the luggage he has brought along. Bruce promptly complies with Kang Hansu's request. Amidst this, The Orc Guardian interjects, questioning Kang Hansu about the contents of the items he has brought with him. Kang Hansu clarifies that they are his personal belongings and urges the Orc Guardian not to harm the villagers, as they are responsible for transporting his luggage. The Orc Guardian admonishes Kang Hansu, stating that the Orc Sanctuary isn't his personal storage space. In response, Kang Hansu issues a menacing retort, asserting his authority to order the portals used for transfers and insisting that the Orc Guardian must comply. The Orc Guardian is left speechless and fearful in the face of Kang Hansu's resolve. The Orc Guardian then reflects that though he has endured various humiliations in his life, this is the first time being weaker than someone has ignited anger within him. Kang Hansu is exhilarated by this admission and takes it as a compliment, reveling in the acknowledgement of his strength. The scene shifts to the designated meeting point, where Kang Hansu instructs Cogmos to rendezvous with him. There, Cogmos paces anxiously, his nerves palpable. However, his unease is abruptly interrupted as Kang Hansu materializes seemingly out of thin air, causing Cogmos to start in fright. Kang Hansu wastes no time and informs Cogmos that they need to escape immediately. In response, Cogmos implores Kang Hansu to provide an explanation for the urgent situation. Kang Hansu responds, emphasizing that they must distance themselves as far as possible from Leisha and Julia from now on. Cogmos inquires if this has anything to do with the warrior's curse, to which Kang Hansu confirms. Cogmos then suggests that heading north would be the wisest course of action. When Kang Hansu questions what lies to the north, Cogmos explains the presence of a slave market where Kang Hansu can acquire a slave to assist with translation. Cogmos suddenly notices a smirk on Kang Hansu's face and questions his demeanor. Kang Hansu retorts that he finds it intriguing that Cogmos didn't run away, which annoys Cogmos. He explains that Kang Hansu took away all his belongings when entering the portal at the inn, preventing him from acquiring a horse to expedite their journey. Consequently, Cogmos predicts they'll be captured by night sooner due to the lack of speed. Upon hearing this, Kang Hansu unexpectedly lifts Cogmos, much to Cogmos' astonishment. Cogmos protests vehemently, yelling at Kang Hansu to release him. Kang Hansu, however, decides to persist, justifying that their journey would be quicker if he carries Cogmos. With this, Kang Hansu dashes through the forest with Cogmos in his arms, continuing until near daybreak. Their journey is abruptly interrupted when Cogmos pleads with Kang Hansu to set him down, expressing extreme hunger. While initially annoyed, Kang Hansu realizes there's no alternative and employs his holy sword to contact the Orc Guardian. A portal opens, and 2 plates of steak are passed through, leaving Cogmos utterly astonished. Following their meal, Kang Hansu collects the empty dishes and disposes of them through the portal, further surprising Cogmos. In response, Cogmos remarks that no matter how many times he witnesses it, the existence of magic capable of producing food and cleaning dishes remains beyond his comprehension. Kang Hansu playfully suggests it's because Cogmos hasn't encountered such magic yet, provoking a mix of fury and irritation from Cogmos. Kang Hansu urges Cogmos to hasten, emphasizing the need to reach the slave market. Cogmos reassures him that they're nearly there, which irritates Kang Hansu as he questions the logic of stopping for a meal before reaching the city. Nevertheless, Cogmos implores Kang Hansu to cease complaining, and together, they make their way to the slave market. Upon their arrival at the slave market, Kang Hansu is taken aback by its immense size, and Cogmos explains that it is the largest slave market on the western continent. As Kang Hansu gazes around in amazement, Cogmos encourages him to stop acting like a beggar and follow him. Kang Hansu quickly catches up to Cogmos, and as they proceed, Cogmos halts and pledges to return Kang Hansu's belongings. He assures Kang Hansu that he won't abandon him until they secure a slave with a language blessing. Upon hearing this, Kang Hansu communicates with the Orc Guardian through the Holy Sword, requesting a brown bag. A portal materializes, and a brown bag is passed through it. Witnessing this process, Cogmos comes to a realization that the sword may serve as a means to activate portals, leading him to speculate whether it is a magical sword. Driven by curiosity, he asks Kang Hansu if he can examine the sword, and Kang Hansu agrees. Upon gripping the sword, Cogmos gazes at it in awe, noting its seemingly ordinary appearance. However, his contemplation is abruptly interrupted as he is jolted by a powerful electrical shock, causing him intense pain. This shocking revelation prompts Cogmos to recognize the sword as a holy sword, and in tearful disbelief, he questions Kang Hansu, demanding to know how he could hand over a holy sword to a demon like himself knowingly. Cogmos inquired from Kang Hansu how he is able to wield a holy sword, prompting Kang Hansu to explain that it's a flawed holy sword. Cogmos retorted that the weapon, like its owner, is also defective. Kang Hansu's anger flared up in response, and he made an attempt to confront Kog'Maws aggressively, leaving Kog'Maws filled with fear. The scene then abruptly shifts, revealing a female demon slave in her room. She appears despondent, her eyes clouded with a sigh escaping her lips.